All right, so I watched Get Out again this weekend, and something hit me this time that I didn't fully realize the first time that I watched it. Now, a lot of people who have watched Get Out, there's been a lot of discourse, online, a lot of commentary, and for the most part, people think it's a horror flick, and I'm not saying that it's not. There are those who feel like it is it's symbolism for race relations and racism. Not saying that it's not that either. And it can be a combination of both. However, after watching it again years later, I feel like there's something that Jordan Peele was trying to warn us about. Because if you watch the movie and you look at all of the different just little details and symbolism and messages that are included in the movie, you begin to wonder, is it just one big metaphor for power, control, influence, manipulation, all the things that happen in real life when we are not paying attention? So welcome to the distraction economy, where we slow things down and figure out what's really going on. Okay, so this movie hits the culture really, really hard, right? Because from the beginning scene, you see a black man walking through a quiet, ritzy neighborhood by himself. A car is slowly creeping alongside him. There are no monsters or no music that signals danger, but you could feel the tension underneath. Basically, it was showing you that in social situations, certain things just don't feel right. They don't feel comfortable. And we could identify with that immediately. Think about the garden scene. Remember the garden scene where Chris is at the garden party scene, where Chris is at the garden party. He seems to be the only black person there. And it just feels really weird because everybody's treating him like a spectacle or a science project. They're looking at his skin. They're looking at his muscles. They're asking him weird stuff like, how's your golf swing? And, just different things, like they are examining something that is not necessarily real, like he wasn't even a person. Again, like he was some sort of a spectacle or a science project, something in a petri dish. So again, there are some social norms that are, and I hate to say norms, but things in social settings and social situations that make us, certain people, feel uncomfortable. So again, this movie had us hooked from the beginning. Now, one of the biggest scenes to pay attention to is when Rose's mother, Missy, is stirring that teacup. She's stirring that teacup and she's hypnotizing Chris. Now, is this scene really about hypnosis? Yes and no. It's really about how we can be hypnotized into not paying attention to what's really going on because we're looking at things at face value, and before you know it, you've lost control. You're in the sunken place. He's conscious. He can see what's going on. He can see what's going on. He can hear it, but he can't do anything about it. It's like being a victim in your own life or a character in your own life. The story is going on, but you have no control over anything that's happening. And if you think about it, that happens in real life. How often do people find themselves looking around and saying, this can't be my life? This cannot be happening, but yet it is. It symbolizes a loss of control. He's falling in the darkness. He can't get his grip on anything. He's just falling into the sunken place. And really, I think that's why that particular phrase, the sunken place, sticks, because when people are in situations that they feel they can't control, they feel they don't have any say so, they feel like they're powerless, which happens a lot, especially in situations where we are socioeconomically disadvantaged. It's the sunken place. It is absolutely the sunken place. Now let's talk about how villains get you in real life, because this movie did a really good job at the symbolism when it came to that. Because if you think about it, the love bombing, the trying to find common ground to reel Chris in, and the niceties and all of that. Because in the beginning, Rose was loving and she was nurturing, and she acted like she was so appalled that her family would overstep their bounds and that they were slightly racist and things like that. She was making it seem like she was on Chris, like it was her and Chris against the world, her and Chris against her family, really. But in actuality, she was just reeling him in, fattening him for the kill, the dad, saying, I would have voted for Obama a third time if I could have, knowing doggone well you didn't vote for him the first time or the second time. But saying that, he feels like, okay, that's putting something common on the table that the two of us can connect with. Should Chris believe it? And after watching it and rewinding it and going back, I'm not so sure that Chris actually believed what he said, because he still had a look on his face like, yeah, right. But either way, that was part of the real end. That was part of the fattening the calf for the kill, right? And then think about the people at the garden party, all of those compliments, all of that love bombing, when in actuality, you mean to do this person harm, but you feel like if you can disarm them, and we see that happen all the time. We see people in the workplace and they do that. Don't like you at all, but trying to get you on their side or getting your good graces with the niceties, with the finding, common themes and common topics and love bombing, all to disarm you. Like in the movie, all they were trying to do was disarm Chris so that they could move in for the kill, for the gotcha moment. And that happens in real life all the time. I feel like Jordan Peele was trying to warn us about that. Now, here's what struck me with it all. There were a lot of things that Chris ignored at first, like with Georgina and Walter, right? Like, the pouring of the tea and, how Georgina was acting and how Walter was talking. There was just some things that initially Chris was ignoring. But then he started to catch on. He started to feel like something in the milk ain't clean. But again, he's so far in that now it's a little bit harder to get out. And if you think about it, again, Jordan Peele is telling us, hey, pay attention. If anything, he's saying, stay woke, look at things and look at them and look at them again. Look under the surface, look under the hood. Stop taking things at face value. And when you see some things that probably don't seem right, they probably aren't right. And that's where things start to shift in the movie, because now Chris is like, something ain't something ain't jiving here, especially when he tells Rose that he thinks that Walter may have a slight crush on her. Because if you go back to the movie, she says, well, what did he say? She didn't say, oh no, he doesn't have a crush. She didn't say that. She said, well, what did he say? But he didn't necessarily pick up on her asking that question. He just kind of brushed it off a little bit, especially when she said, well, I'll talk to my dad about it, right? He should have kept digging, again, looking under the surface, looking under the hood. And we don't do that a lot of times. A lot of times, by the time we start looking into things, by the time we start asking questions, by the time we start looking at the bottom line, we're in the sunken place. And I think that's one of the things that Jordan Peele was trying to get us to understand. Start looking at things in a deeper manner, because if not, you will find yourself in the same predicament that Chris found himself in, trying to get out. after you're in too deep. So here's what I think. The reason why Get Out, the messaging, is so prevalent today because people are still finding themselves in the sunken place. Even though the signs may be on the wall, all of the breadcrumbs are there that we're not paying attention to. Sometimes the messaging is really, really loud, but it's not sinking in. And before you know it, just like that, you find yourself in the sunken place. So Jordan Peele did a really, really good job in letting us know we need to pay attention. Social media, the media, movies, everything else does a really good job at distracting us from what the real deal is. And that's what this channel is about. The distraction economy is real. What is it that we're not paying attention to that we need to pay attention to? What is it that seems loud and clear, but we're just not getting it? And we're finding ourselves in the sunken place. So at the end of the day, I believe that Jordan Peele was warning us to pay attention. Pay attention to everything that's around you because you don't want to lose control of your life. Let me know in the comments what you think. And if you think that there's other hidden meanings that maybe, we didn't touch on, that we didn't talk about, let me know in the comments. And if you agree, let me know that too. It's your girl Felicia. Until the next video.